Colin Cowherd updated NFL prediction. Now, I like Colin. I like Colin Cowherd a lot. Colin Cowherd, probably my favorite sports radio. Him and Jim Rome, my two main sports radio people I've listened to in my lifetime. Big fan. So let's see his updated 2020 NFL predictions. Are we ready? Take a look.
AFC East. Buffalo.
All right. So we got 11-5 for the Bills, 7-9 for the Dolphins, 6-10 for the Jets, 5-11 for the Patriots. So a good thing for the Bills is that they have to play a lot of these shitty teams. Like these are four pretty bad teams. Buffalo is good. Buffalo just has a quarterback that's not that good. I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback that the Bills have had for a while, but is he going to lead them to 11-5? If they go 11-5, it's only because they destroy the AFC East. They probably won't lose a divisional game if they go 11-5. The Dolphins, I like the Dolphins personnel, but you got to imagine they're still waiting with the Tua thing. Jets, how much do you believe in Sam Darnold? They got a lot of dysfunction going on, and the Patriots are on a full rebuild. 5-11 for the Patriots, though, I'll say this, would really hurt Bill Belichick in the Belichick or Tom Brady argument. I don't know about 5-11 for the Patriots. I got Cam Newton. If Cam Newton is even close to healthy, they're going way better than 5-11. So this might be if Colin believes that Cam Newton will not play the full season.
I had him earlier about 9 wins. I'm going to give him 11. They've added Stephon Diggs. They've had a couple of opt-outs, a defensive lineman, a corner. They're deep on defense. Miami's one of the toughest teams for me because I really like where they're going. But, God, they needed a preseason. They really needed a preseason. So I've got them at 7-9. I think if they had a preseason, Tua would start. They don't have a preseason. I don't think Tua will start. I think they'll find their magic about week 5 or 6. Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. That sounds about right. Miami's going to be somewhere in that 7-9, 8-8 universe. I can see it.
C.J. Mosley opted out. Jamal Adams is gone.
Jets have some real problems. Jets have real infrastructure problems with players just hating playing for the Jets.
They're just not going to be good enough in an improved division. And again, New England's 5-11. 8 opt-out players. Cam is sharing snaps. No preseason for Cam, sharing snaps. No deep threat. No functioning tight end.
That is a problem with Cam, is that he'll have to go into it almost blind. He'll have to go into this with no preseason. He'll have to go into this no true offseason. That's something to think about with a lot of these teams with new quarterbacks. How much of the quarterbacks been able to integrate themselves into the locker room with this pandemic? That's a real problem.
Dante Skrmetta, best O-line coach in 20 years, retires. I think we all know why New England will be 5-11. AFC North.
Because they lost the greatest quarterback. Whoa! $16-0? 16-0? Colin.
I've got courage. Baltimore's going to roll. They're going to destroy people. 13 of their 16 games, they're going to bulldoze people. They have the NFL's easiest travel schedule, and I think the NFL's best roster. Cleveland worries me with Kevin Stefanski, but I love their talent. I think Cleveland's
got a quarterback issue. I don't think Baker Mayfield's that good. Pittsburgh's on the downtrend. Cincinnati's another team where it's like Joe Burrow, I think, is really good or could be really good, but with no preseason, no true offseason, how much are they going to really rely on him? 16-0 is wild. I mean, you got to think, like Lamar Jackson, will it work again? I mean, like Lamar Jackson had the best season I think you could ever ask of a quarterback or ever ask of Lamar Jackson. MVP, and they didn't go 16-0. They didn't win the Super Bowl. They didn't make the AFC Championship game. So it's like, is he going to repeat an MVP type season? Is what Baltimore has going on that foolproof? I don't know.
Probably starts to roll about mid-October. pump the brakes on Brown's criticism. New coach, new staff. They're going to be a run-first football team, fingers crossed. Pittsburgh, again, I would love to see a preseason with Big Ben.
Yeah, I mean, like Big Ben's just in the twilight of his career. You know, he comes off injuries. He's hurt. They're losing players left and right. They're losing weapons. Big Ben's not going to be able to carry them anymore. I think 7-9 sounds pretty right there. You know, Big Ben bringing them 7-9 is pretty impressive.
They don't get one, and I don't buy them right now. I don't like their direction, though I love their front seven. Cincinnati, I thought, could win 5 or 6. They're going to get rolled. They're going to be bad. They just don't. I saw the Joe Burrow footage yesterday. The ball didn't have any zip on it. Very concerned. Accuracy issues. The ball was very low.
I'll tell you this. If I was Cincinnati, I don't think I'd play Burrow. I don't think I'd just roll him out there in like a season with so much variables or so many variables, so much unknown. If it was me, I would treat this as like, hey, Joe, you want to see, I may play him for like a half a game, but I would not say, all right, Joe Burrow, go have your first season. Now that's how I would start the season. I'm not saying I would sit in for all 16 games. You can't do that. Your franchise is going to turn on you. But I would start off during this time where it's so crazy and so unknown. I would start off during this time really easing him in. I wouldn't just say, good luck, dude, wear a mask.
Did not like the 45 seconds of Joe Burrow footage yesterday. And I watched that and I thought,
This blows my mind, right? I'm not saying that every single college quarterback that's good in college works out in the NFL or should, but to say their physical tools are worse, it's like, Colin, 6 months ago, Joe Burrow was the greatest quarterback a college football season has ever seen. He was making throws that no one made, and now you're saying he has no zip on the ball? Now you're saying that his throws are low? Now you're saying that he doesn't have an arm? Like, I understand the whole, like, oh, he's not reading a defense. He doesn't have the pace of the game. He doesn't understand the process of the NFL. I understand all that. But how are you supposed to just say, oh, man, he's throwing an NFL football, so now all of a sudden he has no zip? What? That should be the only thing that translates. No one was saying Jamarcus Russell lost his arm strength when he went to the NFL. People were saying he just couldn't read the defenses, couldn't prep, couldn't do all that stuff. The Joe Burrow criticism being anything physical doesn't make any sense to me. From a 45-second workout video, when we all just watched a full season, we all just watched Joe Burrow play a full perfect season, and now all of a sudden his arm doesn't have any zip.
What am I doing? He's not lining up against the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers defenses. I'm sorry. It's going to be a total mismatch, and that's nothing against Joe Burrow. They're going to be awful. All right, AFC South. A bunch of average and a horrible Jaguars team. Again,
this is about right. I think Indianapolis is like my sleeper team in the AFC. I think Indianapolis could make a run at like an AFC Championship game or they're not better than Kansas City, but I think that they could easily be one of those teams that gives the AFC some trouble. The rest of this seems about right. I mean, I think Tennessee was an anomaly last year because you cannot have quarterback play that bad. You cannot have your quarterback throw the ball 5-6 times a game and win like they did last year. Derrick Henry was on a different plane of existence. If Houston did not have Deshaun Watson, they honestly may have the worst roster in the NFL. And Jacksonville is total trash. True.
Jaguars got
4 to 5 wins easy, maybe more if Joe Burrow is great very quickly. That's asking a lot. The other option is Ryan Finley, and we saw how that went. See, that's where I differ a lot on front offices, or not even front offices, but just like fans, is that if look, Ryan Finley is bad, sure. If Joe Burrow, if you're going to win 4 games with Joe Burrow and risk, injury or who knows what in a COVID-ridden season, I would rather say, okay, well, I'm not really concerned about winning 4, 5, 6 games. I'm concerned with getting Joe Burrow up to speed and building around him. So if that means sitting him for a half season or sitting him and slowly bringing him along, who gives a shit if you go 2-14 or if you go 4-12? Like, to me, it's the same thing. To me, there is no difference. Those 2 wins, those 3 wins don't matter at all. 2 wins and 5 wins are the same thing to me. So I would prioritize developing my quarterback, getting him up to speed, and people really sleep on the development of just moving to a new city, being in a new place, being in a new locker room, being with a new coach. Like, people think developing a quarterback is only through snaps, only through playing. There's so much more that these quarterbacks have to go through. You're talking about leaving your family, leaving your home, buying a house or an apartment, getting in there, meeting new people, going to a new building, going to a new facility, all the stuff that comes with being a pro quarterback. Game day, commercial breaks, what it's like, the sidelines, like the whole process. Letting them get to speed on that first and then figure out the on-field stuff is how I would approach every high-drafted quarterback that I had. Every single time. I would give them a few weeks to just get all that stuff out of the way, and that's what preseason should be. That's what the offseason should be. But it's not the same this year because everything was scrapped. So he doesn't have the preseason to see what it's like in the NFL, what the game speed's like, what it's like to have a TV timeout or whatever they do at the stadium. I don't know what they do in Cincinnati, but let him see that. Let him be around in his – if you take a new job and your first day at the office, the first thing you really have to do is meet your coworkers, figure out where the break room is, figure out where the bathroom is. You never just go straight into a project. You never just go straight into a conference call. You got to get your bearings first.
No players. They're clearly targeting next year. I think the Colts have the best young offensive line in football, and that will allow immobile Phillip Rivers to succeed.
The Colts are sweet.
I also loved their first 3 draft picks, or their first 2 draft picks. Michael Pittman from USC, Jonathan Taylor, running back at Wisconsin. Now, I don't think Phillip Rivers is athletic. In fact, I think he's the least athletic quarterback in the league, and I think there are some limitations in 2020. The good teams can move the pocket. Or you're like Tampa, where you have superstars everywhere. So I think the Colts win a average division. I think Tannehill pulls back. There you go. AFC West, this division's absolutely loaded. I even think the Raiders are fun, but I think they're going to be over their skis. Teams that move cities are usually bad the first year.
Yep, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that being an issue. I'm not a Drew Lock guy, but this seems about right. Like this seems about right. I don't see how that does anything to help him actually get used to NFL defenses. I understand what you mean, but I don't think that helps him. He's from Ohio, so he knows the area. I don't mean like the weather. I'm talking about like where's he living, where is he going to work, who his teammates are, what the locker room looks like, where the weight room is, and then like the NFL defenses. That's where it comes into every day. Like he's going to film, he's going to practice, he's practicing against NFL defenses, he's watching tape. And then if you slowly bring him along and you're in week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8, and now you start giving him some play time, you start giving him some playing time and some reps and some snaps after he's already seen it on film, after he's already seen it in practice, that I think is better than, hey man, it's week 1, here's the Ravens, good luck, you know?
I think Kansas City's going to win 12.
It's kind of crazy to think about Kansas City winning 12 games and Baltimore winning 16 games. I understand the division is tougher, but I think Kansas City is the only way they lose 4 games is if Mahomes gets hurt or if they pull back the reins on Mahomes.
Add Denver being a very good team this year, and I think they're improved. Here's what worries me. They got a left tackle issue, and the right tackle opted out. That's Cleveland last year. Cleveland had a lot of good players. They were atrocious at tackle. And Cleveland couldn't protect Baker Mayfield running for his life. So I get Drew Lock with a bad left tackle who's underachieved and a right tackle who opted out. That worries me a ton. But I still have them at 9-7. Chargers are a very competitive 8-8. Tyrod Taylor is a functioning starting quarterback.
Tyrod Taylor is kind of like a Ryan Fitzpatrick type where he will – there's some games where it's like, holy shit, where did this come from? Like, oh my, is he the MVP? And then there's some games where it's like, oh man, that is not pretty. That is not good at all. I think you could take Denver, Chargers, and the Raiders and flip them all over. You could just grab bag this whole thing. You could randomize these 3. If the Chargers were 5-11 and the Raiders were 8-8, if the Broncos were 5-11 and the Chargers were 9-7, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's Kansas City, and then none of the other teams make the playoffs, and that's going to be the AFC West.
New stadium, same coach. I like them. I just think in an improved AFC, there's a ceiling with the team. Raiders 5-11. So my AFC playoffs, Bills, Ravens, Colts, Chiefs are division winners. Broncos, Browns, Chargers are playoff teams. Yes,
Oh, I forgot there's 3 wild cards now.
I do think Kansas City, Denver, and the Chargers all make the playoffs from the AFC West. NFL football, arguably, I really do think it's the best division in football.
This looks about right to me. I mean, this is who I would have as my division lead. I think the division champs are all right. I think that all these divisions in the AFC are pretty top heavy, to be honest. Like, I think if you're looking at the Chiefs, they're far and away better than whoever you have second in the West. The Colts are far and away better than Tennessee and Jacksonville and Houston. The Ravens are obviously better than Cleveland. And then the Bills, it's like, is Miami going to win the division? With who? Is Jacksonville? I mean, is the Jets going to win the division? You know, the Patriots. I guess the Patriots. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess, but I don't think the division leaders in the AFC or the division winners are like is a question mark.
Now let's go to the NFC.
Okay.
I'm going to have Philadelphia winning it. Dallas has a new coach. They're not going to be bad. They could go 9-7, but I have 8-8. I think the Giants, there's some things about the Giants I like. Daniel Jones better than I thought.
Daniel Jones sucks.
Barkley, they've upgraded the O-line. I think New York's going to be but I got a new coach. But they're another team. If the Giants had a preseason and you gave me a look at them, I'd like them a lot more.
I think Daniel Jones had like 20 fumbles last year. Somebody look up how many times Daniel Jones fumbled last year. This division is always the same. It's always going to be that like top 2 teams are a win away from each other. They're all very similar. The Giants and Washington are like big steps back from Dallas and Philly. Dallas is loaded. 18 fumbles last year? Yeah. Oh my God. It's a quarterback. 18 fumbles. Dallas and Philly, or Dallas is loaded. It's just if Dallas can, do Dallas things. Like Dallas is always its own issue of Jerry and, is Dak going to take a step forward or how's the new coach going to be? If Dallas can figure itself out, Dallas has so much talent around it. I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas was a 12-win team. But it's Dallas, so they're probably going to go 9-7 or 8-8. But they have the talent. It's just for some reason they can't get out of their own way. So we'll see what happens there. Philly, same deal. Like Philly is always perennial 8-8 to 10-6. Wentz is a player who can be MVP level, or Philly can just underachieve. The whole NFC East is like that, except for New York and Washington because they're in a rebuild. So if it was me, I'd have Dallas at 10-6 and Philly at 8-8 or 9-7 or something. But I'll say Dallas wins the NFC East.
The Washington football team going to be I just think they're going to be bad. I think they'll be really
Cardell Jones is awful too.
Intense. But again, how bad did Dwayne Haskins need a preseason?
Or excuse me, Dwayne Haskins. I said Cardell. I was thinking about the XFL we were talking about yesterday. Yeah, Dwayne Haskins. Sorry.
Like Washington's one, like Miami. Like there's players with Washington. There are players with Miami.
So to clarify, Dwayne Haskins is awful. He's one of the bottom 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. Devastating for Washington with a new coach, quarterback with very few starts, no preseason. NFC North, I think it's going to be a very good division. I think the Vikings run away with this division. I think the Packers have a lot of inner turmoil with Aaron Rodgers and the front office. I think it's time for him to go. I think Rodgers is on his way out. He's a pretty petty fella. Green Bay just hasn't helped Rodgers his whole career. It's shocking that they've been as good for as long with the help they haven't given him. Trubisky's terrible. The Lions are pretty much in a rebuild. Minnesota's stellar. Minnesota's issue is Kirk Cousins, and we'll see how far Kirk Cousins can take Minnesota, but the rest of the team is amazing. Definitely division leader here. I'd be shocked if Green Bay gets 11 wins. Absolutely stunned.
Like Detroit, like everybody else, a lot of people think Detroit's sneaky. I'm going to have Minnesota and Green Bay at 11-5.
I'd probably flip Detroit and Chicago, and I'd probably have Detroit like 6 wins. 7 wins, it seems like a lot. I think Chicago's a mess.
Again, I got some issues with Green Bay, but I Aaron Rodgers, star offensive players. I think Minnesota's roster is excellent. I think Minnesota's front office is excellent.
They are. The Minnesota has a fantastic. They're a really well-run organization, for sure. With probably the most underrated head coach in NFL history.
Mike Zimmer's a little rigid for me on the offensive end, but Kirk.
Fun fact: Mike Zimmer, if you go back and look at his win percentage, is almost identical, maybe even better, in the last since he's been at Minnesota. I don't know how many years as Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick and Zimmer have a very similar historical win percentage.
Cousins, as much as we bag on him, is pretty proficient. Chicago's in a little bit of a quarterback transition stage. That's how I see it. And in the NFC South, Saints, Bucks, Panthers, Falcons. I think the
Falcons are way better than 6-10. This looks about right. The problem with this division is that they just beat each other up. Happens every year. It's really hard for this division because this is, in my opinion, probably one of the top, probably like the second or third best division in football. I just don't see Teddy Bridgewater being 7-9. I think Atlanta could be 8-8, something like that. 7-9, 8-8. I think Atlanta's way better than Carolina. Tampa and New Orleans. That's it. Like Tampa and New Orleans are gonna fight for it. You just gotta steal wins. Like that's how this division is. They steal wins from each other. They do it every year. Very tough division. Very good quarterback play. Even like think about this. Let's say Atlanta does finish last. Is Matt Ryan the best last place division quarterback in the NFL? For sure. The other people we talked about, Dwayne Haskins, Mitchell Trubisky, like those quarterbacks are bad. Gardner Minshew, those quarterbacks are bad for a reason. Those teams are bad for a reason. Matt Ryan starts on Carolina. Matt Ryan starts on Chicago. Matt Ryan starts on Miami, on the Jets, on the Steelers, on the Browns. Like him being the last will be, or the last place quarterback is something else. So I would say Saints, 11-5 sounds about right. Tampa, they're gonna be right there, and then I could see Atlanta being like 8-8, and Carolina like 5-11 or something. So that's how I would see this. I think these two, I think the Saints and the Bucks are far and away better than Carolina and Atlanta, but compared to the rest of the league, I think you're looking at like, I think it's pretty even. I think people sleep. If Atlanta would have made the playoffs last year, they would have made a run. They finished the season really, really strong. Really strong. Atlanta was playing pretty good at the end there.
Falcons are a bit of a mess. I think they may bail on their head coach, who's in a lame duck year halfway through the season. Carolina 7-9, but fighter's chance they blow somebody's season up. I think the Saints are the best team, and I think Tampa Bay takes about 6 weeks to get their act together. Really could have used a preseason, didn't have one.
You're going to have another issue here with Tampa Bay where how inside has Tom Brady been in that locker room? I mean, you're going to have all these players in Tampa Bay who are getting used to Tom Brady. You're getting all these players who are getting used to how Tom Brady rolls, how he operates, and you have Tom Brady getting used to all these new players. Tom Brady knows where Julian Edelman's going. Tom Brady knows where Gronk's going. Tom Brady knows what Bill Belichick is calling, right? He doesn't know all these players. So it is going to take a few weeks. I'm not saying they're going to go 0-6, but it's not going to be all rainbows and sunshine at the beginning. That's a really tough ask for both sides to learn a player and for a play. Tom Brady's a pretty rigid guy. He's a rigid guy who's been in the same system his entire career. And now you're asking him to change systems, change teams, change teammates, change coaches. That's a lot. And now you're going from the Bucks, who are used to Jameis Winston, who are used to that kind of quarterback, and now they have to change their whole play style. The Saints this is a season that's good for the Saints as far as like COVID and stuff because the Saints know who they are. All these major players have been in this situation with no big shakeup for a long time. So that's a good thing for the Saints. That's something that they will have over the other teams. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is very good.
Defense, my prediction is Tampa's defense will actually be the story the first 6 weeks of the year. We'll be talking about their defense. NFC West, second to best division in football. I got the Niners winning at 12-4. I had Seattle better than this. Pull back a little bit. Organization that I think.
Yeah, this is probably the best division of football. It's just so hard to argue. 12-4 for the Niners for Jimmy Garoppolo. Man, that's a real tough ask. Like, how good is Jimmy Garoppolo? I think the Seahawks are way better than 10-6. I think the Rams will struggle. The Rams are going to struggle. I think their time in the sun is over. Cardinals are probably better than 5-11 too.
Think's a little top heavy. Rams are good at 9-7, but like Seattle, they're kind of like Seattle to me. Some stars top heavy, some thin spots. They just don't have the quarterback Seattle does. And
they're nothing like Seattle.
Arizona's a competitive 5-11, but still young and a lot of changes. The NFC playoffs look exactly like last year's. The difference is Tom Brady's in. Eagles, Vikings, Saints, Niners. The wild card teams, I think Minnesota would tie with Green Bay but win the division. Packers, Bucks, and Seahawks.
I think we're looking at like Dallas. I'm cool with Minnesota, New Orleans. I'm going to go ahead and say Seattle wins the West. I just trust Russell Wilson maybe more than any quarterback in the league not named Patrick Mahomes. Besides Patrick Mahomes, I don't think there's a quarterback I would rather have than Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is so good. And if it's him and Garoppolo and I'm going into a season, I'm going with the Seahawks. I'm going with Russell Wilson. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a bit of a fake. I think he was protected a lot last year. I think he had some games where he shined. I was in the Dome when he played New Orleans, and he put on an absolute show. Threw for like 550 yards. And he was incredible. But there's some games where he doesn't. So I'm concerned about another year of Jimmy Garoppolo leading the Niners. Can he do it again? If Jimmy Garoppolo leads the Niners to another 12-4 or another winning season like this, it's going to be really impressive. So I'll say I'm going to swap these. I think what Colin is saying about the Vikings and the Packers could easily be like what happens with the Seahawks and Niners, where they both finish 11-5, something like that, and the Seahawks win on the tiebreaker, and the Seahawks go through, Niners go to the wild card. Besides that, I'd have Dallas in the East, and this all looks pretty good. Look how good the NFC is. Like, the NFC is stacked. Just the Vikings, Bucks, Saints, Seahawks, Niners. If I told you any of those 5 teams won the Super Bowl, would you be surprised? Would you be surprised if the Niners won it, the Saints won it, the Vikings won it, the Bucks won it, the Seahawks won it? I wouldn't. I wouldn't be at all. And then you go to you go back to the AFC, and it's like, would I be surprised if the Browns won it? Yep. Chargers won it? Yep. Colts won it? Yep. Bills won it? Yep. It's like the AFC is pretty much the Chiefs or bust, or I guess the Ravens, if you believe in the Ravens. So if you have the Ravens and the Chiefs, look at the other teams in the AFC. How crazy would it be if any of these teams were even in the Super Bowl? How crazy would it be to see a Bills Super Bowl or Colts, Chargers, Browns, Broncos, and then you flash back over here to the NFC.
Better than 5-11, but still young and would tie with Green.
Besides the Eagles, would any of these teams really surprise you that much in the Super Bowl? Really? I mean, Green Bay would surprise me because I don't think they're very good, but they went to the NFC Championship game last year. Like, Aaron Rodgers shouldn't ever surprise you. So, NFC's tough. But I don't have a huge problem with his prediction. Some of the wins, some of the win-loss, yeah, I mean, I don't think Chicago's close to a 500 team. Dallas is probably better than 8-8.
8-8.
This one, like I said, it could go any way. Cool with this.
Philip.
I mean, I think Colin was pretty dead on here. I think the Cardinals probably a little bit better. Falcons probably a little bit better. Panthers probably a little bit worse. Seahawks probably a little bit better. Russell Wilson losing 6 games, like, it's always, if you're saying, hey man, Russell Wilson's going to be 10-6, it's like, yeah. Betting against Russell Wilson is always a very scary proposition. Now, I understand every team can't be 12-4, but it's amazing how much better 11-5 looks than 10-6. 11-5 is like, man, that's a successful season. 10-6, you might not even make the playoffs. Potential versus production. Tampa certainly should be 4 games better. I just don't think they will be. Tampa's problem is the offseason. Tampa's problem is they have so much. I'll tell you something else about Tampa.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston and Tom Brady, as far as like production, pure on the field production last year were very similar. I understand Jameis had the 30 interceptions, but if you look at everything else, it's like, they're relatively, what they did last year was pretty similar. Is Tom Brady better than Jameis? Yes, obviously. How much of an upgrade will it be for Tampa as a whole, as a franchise? To say that Tom Brady's going to take Tampa to the Super Bowl, that's going to lie, in my opinion. So,
fingers crossed.
I think a lot of people are just saying, "Oh, Tom Brady's on Tampa, so that means Tampa will go to the Super Bowl." So yeah, well, Tom Brady was on New England, and Tampa's roster is better than New England's, obviously, but I think 10-6 sounds about right for them. Slow start. I can see them being like, 5-3, something like that, halfway through the season, and then they may go on a tear. But I guess if they went 5-3 and then 5-3, it's not a tear, but they may start to look better. So that's kind of. I guess he sees this as like 4-4, 6-2. That's how he sees the season shaping up. Because I think he thinks it's going to take a while for Tampa to heat up, which makes sense to me. Tampa's defense is what does it for me. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Tampa's good. 10-6 just sounds right to me. I just think a lot of people are penciling Tampa in because of Tom Brady. Like, I think Colin went out on a bit of a limb here, even saying New Orleans over Tampa. But I think that's 100% correct. I think Tom brings experience and leadership. All the talent around him will make him better. And the decrease of turnovers, I think, helps Tampa's defense, which were put in bad spots because of Jameis. Yeah, I think that's fair for sure. I think that's fair. I think there's no doubt Tom Brady is more valuable than Jameis Winston. He is a better asset than Jameis Winston. But acting like people who were thinking that we're getting 2009 Tom Brady, I'll put it to you like this. Tom Brady going from New England to Tampa is not LeBron James going from Cleveland to Los Angeles. That's not what's happening. That is not the same, So it will not be. Tom won't be who wins them playoff games. That's exactly correct. He could, I guess, like theoretically, he could have a 2-minute drive, but Tom Brady just needs to be Tom Brady and not be a Jameis Winston clone. He needs to just not be a game manager, but he needs to kind of do what Peyton Manning did in Denver the last Super Bowl year. Just guide them, game manage, get your ass there. But then if you think about it, when they won, it really wasn't even Peyton. It was Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler won, 10 games? So, I mean, like Peyton almost stopped them from winning, you could argue.
On there.
I think Colin did a pretty good job there.